Hi. Hey, so listen, I've been thinking about this comment that we've been making in industries and organizations for a long time, myself included. So how many of you have heard the comment, check your feelings at the door, check your emotion at the door, don't bring that stuff in here? Well, I'm sure a lot of us have been not only on the receiving end of that, but potentially have said it. Me too. I was notorious for that. And I want to explore a little bit some reasons why we might say that and what happens as a result when we say that. I'm also going to write a blog post about this that will help unpack a little bit more of my perspective, opinion, and experience with this comment. So check your emotions at the door. So it's possible that I would say something like that to people I was leading because I didn't want to deal with emotions, period. Not only because I didn't have the skills to deal with emotions in other people, but I also didn't know how to deal with them in myself. Another potential reason might be I lacked emotional literacy, meaning not only did I not have the skills to deal with them, I had no idea how to understand or interpret them within myself or other people. So it's just easier if we just don't bring that stuff in. Another reason why we potentially say that is, it's much easier to tell people and reward people for being emotionally stoic than having to spend some time really kind of nurturing folks when they're in a space that might be complicated and having emotions. So instead, let's just reward people for locking it down and shutting it down. So what's interesting about some of those whys, and I'm sure there are more whys, but those are just some of the things that are surfacing for me, maybe some of the reasons I had said it. But what's interesting is when we say that, let me share how I used to interpret that when I was on the receiving end. And I'm curious if others are too, including you. So when I heard check your emotions at the door, Sabrina, what I heard was it's not safe to walk in here with any type of anxiety, anger, fear, frustration, worry, because, we don't do that here. So instead, come in here with no emotions. But what would end up happening for me is I would definitely bring in emotions. But here's what I would bring in instead. Instead of bringing in worry or anxiety or overwhelm, I would bring in emotions like resentment, fear, for sure, and shame. So let me give you some behaviors that back those things up. So I would feel resentful for anyone that would tell me don't bring emotions in, because the reality is that is impossible. It's a part of the human experience. So to bring in emotions, it's just the way that it is. So when I did have emotions and someone told me not to acknowledge that or bring those into work, I would feel resentful of that. And some of the behaviors that you could see in me was avoidance of you, probably trash talking, back channeling, talking about you, and stonewalling, meaning I just wouldn't participate, wouldn't communicate, wouldn't share ideas or information because, feeling resentment was easier toward you. Next, I would be feeling fear. Like, if I show emotions here, am I going to get fired? Because we're not allowed to do that here. And last but not least, definitely feeling shame. Because if I have emotions, remember, check them at the door, not allowed here. When I have them, what's wrong with me? And shame is really that kind of complicated, primitive emotion that we feel when we feel like something's wrong with us or that we don't belong. So, and the behaviors that back up shame, geez. For sure, one of the big ones for me is people pleasing. So when I'm feeling shame because I'm having emotion at work, then I go into this mode of how do I ensure that everybody's taken care of, and how do I overcommit and make sure no one's mad at me, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not good. Sometimes I disappear on people and hide out and don't respond to emails when I'm struggling with shame. And last but not least, another behavior that you could observe in me is using shame to fight it. And that's where the hammer came in. And listen, if you worked for me, you remember the hammer. And I would come out swinging. not physically, but with my words and emotions and more. So the truth is, it is impossible to check our emotions at the door. And if we want to lead a bit differently, we're going to have to get curious about what we need to do this differently. So what do skills look like? What does support look like as we start to understand emotions within ourselves and the people that we're leading? So more to come in a blog post. Good to see you. Have a great day.